This administration is shameful. Y'all are a disgrace.
We're watching the fall of this administration.
Yeah, what I think is interesting about this case, this story, is you can be highly legal and unethical at the same time.
Dalton, Illinois, is buzzing with drama, and the latest clash between Trustee Kiana Beller and Mayor Tiffany Henyard is at the center of it all. This isn't your usual small-town politics, it's packed with power struggles, accusations, and fierce debates. Let's face it, who doesn't love some political gossip? But beneath all the excitement, there's a serious issue: accountability. Trustee Beller is raising questions about what she believes is a lack of transparency from Mayor Henyard, and the tension in Dalton's board meetings is making it clear that things are far from settled.
Tonight in South Holland, in a room filled with curiosity and concern, Tiffany Henyard addressed her constituents.
The Thornton Township Supervisor and Dalton Mayor invited the community to Township Talk, where she responded to our report about her use of the township credit card by mentioning travel expenses.
Let's break it down. Trustee Kiana Beller, known for speaking her mind, has been focused on the village's finances, particularly when it comes to questionable spending. On the other side is Mayor Tiffany Henyard, whose leadership style has been called, well, unorthodox. Henyard has faced accusations of mishandling funds, overspending, and even purposely creating paper trails that are hard to follow. It's a situation that leaves people wondering, are these officials working for the community or just playing political games? Things really heated up at a recent meeting when the topic of inauguration expenses came up. It turns out the village had covered the cost of Henyard's inauguration, and Beller wasn't going to let it go without asking some tough questions. Were we at a set dollar amount or not? She asked, her voice firm but professional. The room went quiet for a moment, then the village attorney jumped in, explaining that the expenses were legal because they came from a special event fund that had already been set aside for such occasions. According to the attorney, as long as no single invoice was over $5,000, the expenses didn't need prior approval from the board, but Beller wasn't buying it. She pointed out how the invoices for the event had been split into smaller amounts, each under $5,000, which allowed them to avoid board approval. When asked about this, the attorney admitted that while each invoice could be approved separately, the board could still approve.
To address some things as the supervisor, there will be no comment, there will be anything, it just be me addressing you guys to tell you what's going on.
Mayor Henyard, on the other hand, defended the expenses, insisting that everything was within the budget and brushing off Beller's concerns as unnecessary drama. She suggested that any issues could have been addressed privately instead of in the public meeting. This desire to handle conflicts behind closed doors is something Henyard has often preferred, trying to avoid public attention on any internal disagreements, but Beller wasn't backing down. She made it clear that open discussion and transparency were key. She reminded everyone that it's the trustee's job to ask questions and hold the mayor accountable for the decisions being made. Her words struck a chord with the audience, and murmurs of agreement.
Or the administration can adhere to some financial limits. We're not looking to necessarily.
This isn't the first time Mayor Henyard has been accused of bending the rules. Critics have raised concerns about her history of questionable spending, including tens of thousands of dollars in unaccounted purchases, expensive taxpayer-funded trips, and approving expenses without proper oversight. And let's not forget the ongoing federal investigation into her office. What really gets people talking, though, is her tendency to dismiss criticism as personal attacks. In a previous meeting, she even compared herself to a martyr, saying, "They talked about Jesus Christ. Why wouldn't I think they're going to do me the same way?" But the bigger issue seems to be Henyard's approach to governing, or lack of it. For many residents, the inauguration expenses are just a small part of a much bigger problem. The real concern is the lack of transparency in the budgeting process. During the same meeting, Beller raised serious concerns about the budget, which had been handed to trustees with barely enough time to review it. "We got it at 3:26 p.m. Beller said, clearly frustrated. "The residents haven't even been able to look at it, and now we're expected to make an informed decision." She called for a more detailed.
Happening tonight, community concerns in Thornton Township and a push to regulate what some call out-of-control spending by Township Supervisor and Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
For those familiar with Dalton politics, Mayor Henyard's shift in behavior is especially surprising. Back when she was a trustee, she was known for being thorough and detail-oriented. She would meticulously go through every line of the budget, even questioning the smallest discrepancies. Once, she asked about a budget line for tree trimming, saying, "Why so low? I understand we're doing cuts, but I get a ton of complaints about trees. I think that amount should stay where it's at." She even pushed to increase the budget for tree maintenance, showing just how deeply involved she was in the details. Now, as mayor, that same level of scrutiny seems to have disappeared, which hasn't gone unnoticed. Her critics point out the glaring double standard, especially when she used to demand transparency, and now seems to avoid it. But the drama didn't end there. The meeting also addressed the village's credit card controversy, a topic that's been hanging over Dalton for months. The finance director claimed the cards had been cancelled last year, but Beller wasn't buying it. If the cards were cancelled, why are there still electronic warrant lists showing charges, she asked. Tension filled the room as Henyard accused Beller and another trustee of trying to hijack the village's bank accounts, a claim Beller quickly disproved with evidence. According to emails from the bank, it was Henyard's team that had access.
Good evening. There were many tense moments in tonight's meeting. At times, Supervisor Tiffany Henyard took on her fellow trustees when it came to money and expenses, even accusing some of them of spreading lies about her.
What stands out in these meetings is the growing divide between Mayor Henyard and the other trustees. While Trustee Beller and her colleagues push for transparency and teamwork, Henyard seems to be tightening her grip on power. She often reminds the board that they don't handle the day-to-day operations, a clear way of asserting her authority. But this heavy-handed approach is only fueling the belief that she cares more about consolidating power than serving the people of Dalton, and the residents are taking notice. Frustrated by the lack of progress and constant political bickering, some residents have begun speaking out. One resident, Daryl Lean, told reporters, "We need action, somebody who's actually going to work for the people, not themselves."
Within the board. Y'all thought that I was young, dumb, didn't know nothing, was gonna let y'all come and manipulate me. I didn't do any of that. So because I didn't do any of that, you guys started this whole smear campaign.
What makes this saga even more gripping is the sheer boldness of it all. Mayor Henyard, who once championed transparency and accountability, now seems to be doing everything she can to avoid both. While Trustee Beller's persistence has earned her praise from some, it's also made her a target. Henyard has tried time and again to discredit her, accusing Beller of stirring up unnecessary drama and undermining the unity of the board. But Beller isn't backing down. As the meeting ended, it was clear that the tension between the two women wasn't going anywhere. They represent two different visions for Dalton's future, and their clash has become a symbol of the deep divisions within the village. For Beller, this fight is about restoring trust and holding people accountable. For Henyard, it's about keeping control, despite growing criticism. And for the people of Dalton, it's just another chapter in the ongoing saga of messy local politics. But here's the real question: can Dalton survive this leadership crisis, or is the village doomed to keep repeating the same mistakes? One thing's for sure, this isn't the last we'll hear from Trustee Kiana Beller and Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Stay tuned, because the drama is far from over. When you think the political chaos in Dalton, Illinois, couldn't possibly get any messier, somehow, it does. Trustee Beller and Mayor Henyard might as well be starring in their own reality show at this point.
Tell me how you're out of order. You're out of order. How do they operate, trustees?
Let's rewind to one of the most jaw-dropping moments. The topic? Payroll transparency. You'd think providing payroll reports to trustees would be simple, but in Dalton, it's not. Trustees Kiana Beller and Jason House revealed they'd been repeatedly blocked from accessing basic financial documents. Beller, frustrated, said they'd been asking for months, "How can we make decisions if we can't see where the money's going?" Mayor Henyard denied the claims, saying, "I've never told anyone not to share payroll reports." But Beller wasn't convinced. She showed emails proving the finance director had been instructed by Henyard to withhold the reports. Henyard quickly brushed it off as a misunderstanding, but the tension was palpable.
Right?
Will be on the general election ballot despite an attempt to block her candidacy by an ally of current Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who is running for